Every time our actions cause a species of plant or animal to become extinct, it's as though we pull a thread from that tapestry. If enough threads are pulled, the tapestry will hang in tatters and the ecosystem will collapse. Jane Goodall. Currently, the tapestry of Earth's ecosystem is on the verge of collapsing. Of the 150,300 species on the International Union for Conservation of Nature (IUCN) Red List, more than 42,100 are on the brink of extinction. One of the vital species are the South African rhinoceros. It is predicted that in 20 years this species will disappear from Earth, leaving ecosystems imbalanced. Throughout the early 1900s, rhinoceros, unjustly vilified by the media, were slaughtered at an alarming rate. In 1960, over 100,000 rhinos roamed the plains of South Africa. By 1975, half were gone, terminated by poachers seeking their precious horns. This significant decline spurred conservationists into action. On November 6, 1976, at the first conference of the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species, CITES, 184 countries signed an agreement to amend the original CITES Treaty and prohibit the trade in rhinoceros horn products worldwide. The amendment, later published in 1977, created a pivotal frontier in animal rights history. Being the first international treaty to deem the trade of rhinoceros horn illegal and impose consequences for poachers and traffickers, the amendment established a lasting impact in animal rights history. While the amendment had unintended consequences, it paved the way to a brighter future, not only for rhinos, but for all animals. Historians believe the protection of animal rights began in 1635 when the first documented animal rights law protecting horses, the Thomas Wentworth Act, passed in England. The early 1900s was a booming era for progressives. Conflicts over rights raged across the globe. Protesters filled the streets advocating for women's suffrage, civil rights, and labor rights. After decades of being deemed unimportant, the early 1900s marked the beginning for the arduous battle for animal rights. The Brown Dog Affair of 1903, a major event in animal rights history, confronted inhumane surgeries, vivisections, disguised as educational experiments being performed on a live brown terrier. A lawsuit filed against the professor who performed the surgery forced people to consider animal rights. Although conservationists did not prevail, the event inspired more protests, court cases, organizations, and influential treaties. In 1948 in Switzerland, Julian Huxley founded the International Union for Conservation of Nature to research, educate, and advocate for animal rights. In the late 1950s, Jane Goodall began studying chimpanzees in Africa. In 1962, Rachel Carson published Silent Spring, a call to action for all environmentalists. In 1966, in the United States, the reputable Animal Welfare Act passed Congress to regulate the treatment of animals in research and exhibition. In 1970, animal rights activist Richard Ryder coined the term speciesism to characterize the belief of human superiority. Finally, in 1975, the CITES Treaty entered into force. 2 years later, the 184 parties amended it to combat the growing and serious issue of rhinoceros poaching. Despite their efforts, rhino horn products remained a coveted gift among the Asian population, symbolizing status and wealth.
Prior to the 1977 amendment to the CITES Treaty, rhino poachers faced zero consequences for their actions. Fortunately, the treaty deemed poaching a criminal offense. The case of the notorious Ndlovu poaching gang, a groundbreaking legal battle in animal rights history, challenged the status quo of permitted unethical hunting. 3 members of the gang, caught with freshly harvested rhino horn, along with a saw and dart gun, attended a lengthy trial, revealing numerous other poaching crimes that they had committed. The final ruling, a pivotal moment in rhino conservation, ordered 25 years of imprisonment for each member, causing cheers of triumph to erupt throughout the courthouse. Thus, a new era of rhino conservation began, one where poachers would finally receive punishments for their crimes. The instating of punishments for poachers only, although a step in the right direction, received heavy criticism from conservationists.
We will never, ever win this fight if we focus only on the level ones and forgetting the other levels that are not walking and coming to pull a trigger into the Kruger National Park.
Poaching is a hierarchy of crimes, and at the top of that chain are wealthy consumers. Powerful and oceans away from South Africa, consumers drive the process and are seldom punished for purchasing rhino horn. This inequitable system must be resolved to break the vicious cycle of poaching. Following the 1977 amendment to the CITES Treaty, rhino populations spiked temporarily. However, this bliss came to a sharp halt in 2013. The devastating reality dawned on the international community. Between 2013 and 2015, more than 1,000 rhinos were poached yearly. Conservationists realized the issues surrounding the complete blanket ban on international horn trade, which limited supply, caused the demand and prices of rhino horn to soar, which increased poaching and sales on the black market. Many compared the treaty to the disastrous 1920 18th Amendment, the American prohibition of alcohol, which had the opposite effect it intended. Instead of bringing alcohol consumption to a complete halt, the law wreaked havoc across the country, giving rise to organized crime, poisonous alcoholic products, and thousands of illegal drinking establishments.
We tried through enforcement and compliance to collapse the market. It simply did not work. In fact, to the opposite, we believe it helped grow the market because the status of an illicit product was stimulated on the principles of naughty but nice.
Following the CITES Treaty's downfall, recommendations for an ethical, strictly legalized trade grew.
If there were to be a legal trade, all of a sudden, it's not so special and it's not so rare anymore. I think it takes away that whole enigma, and one could very possibly find that the whole status thing actually kind of eventually crumbles because, it's not so special anymore. And that alone then leads to a reduction in demand.
This new idea prompted South Africa's 2016 National Biodiversity Economy Strategy. This accommodating plan aimed to utilize the country's biodiverse ecosystems through sustainable trade of flora and fauna, which would generate job opportunities and income to fund conservationists and impoverished communities. Additionally, the CITES organization adapted their goals, creating a 2030 vision statement stating that the organization aimed to legalize the international trade of all species by 2030. Another solution scientists and conservationists have explored is the possibility of sustainable alternatives to traditional Chinese medicine products that are made of rhino horn. The utilization of materials composed of keratin, the primary component of rhinoceros horn, from sustainable sources such as horsehair or 3D printed substances have created the possibility of a solution that preserves both Asian cultures and biodiversity. Furthermore, educational programs such as the Lalesha Luanga program use curriculum aimed at educating African youths about the importance of conservation and sustainability. The South African Wildlife College offers ranger training and resource management courses for locals, providing job opportunities that help rebuild biodiversity rather than unraveling the strings of the tapestry. Although the CITES Treaty had unintended consequences, it initiated a monumental biodiversity frontier and crucial legal changes in international trade policies. Yet, the amendment represented more than a treaty. It represented a significant lesson for conservationists and policymakers. Blanket bans can be ineffective. Instead, it is integral for policymakers to consider the myriad of diverse perspectives surrounding an issue, to formulate creative solutions, and to accommodate economic concerns that take all perspectives into account in order to preserve and safeguard the biodiversity tapestry that our world is dependent on.